spun, only spun and woven goods come under the prohibition of Kilayim, for it is
Okay,
written, "You
hold
shall."
on. Come back. It's hay. We want to be in Mishnah hay.
Oh, I moved it because I. All right,
Yes. Oh,
I did it.
did you learn by yourself today?
Yeah, yeah. Garments vendors may sell in the usual fashion, provided they do not react to the sun in the moon, to the sun in the sun, or to the rain in the rain. But the scrupulous suspend them over a staff behind them. Tailors may sew in the usual fashion, provided they do not react to the sun in the sun or to the rain in the rain. But the scrupulous are on the ground. Bursin, Bursden, and Damalkin, and felt shoes may not be worn until they have been examined. Rabbi Yossi says those which come from the coast and from overseas need not be examined, since the presumption is that they are made of hemp. Woolen lined shoes do not come under the prohibition of Kilayim.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So what is asur? Ein asur mishum kilaim ela tavoi v'arug. So you can only be over on kilaim if it has been spun and woven. So it's not just you. If you just had like raw wool with raw flax, that would not be kilaim. Okay. Shenemar lo silba shatnez. What's the word? What's the drush on the word shatnez? Davar shehu shua. It's got to be something that is shua, which is smooth, slippery. Tavoi means it's been twisted, and
Mhm.
nuz it's been spun and I think what is the word that you've got there for
Uh,
nuz? Spun,
twisted. Right,
twisted.
right.
Okay. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar Omer Naloz umelizhu es aviv she b'shamayim alav, and he has another drasha on the word shatnez that from the word shatnez he sees the word naloz umeliz. He is disgraced and
Mm.
from Hakadosh Baruch Hu in Shemaim. Okay, levadim asurim. Levadim are clumps of raw wool, right, which have been beaten and washed and have been connected by pressure in a press or something or by heat, but not by twisting and weaving. Okay, so mipnei shehem shu'im, because these are smooth. So it's still got that quality of smoothness. Now I think when we're saying that it's asur, we're saying that this is it's a gezerah derabanan. The Rambam explains that this is it's not a deraisa over here, but sorry, beg your pardon. The Rambam says it is deraisa, and everyone else says no, it's not deraisa. It's a gezerah. Okay, piv shel tzemer b'shel pishtan. Um, so the pif, or some say piv, or some say pif, which is uh, large threads that you tuck into the weave at the edge of the garment, and you don't actually weave it properly with the garment. You just tuck in the edges. Um, so that if there one is linen and one is wool, that is still asur. Mipnei shehem chozrim barig, because even though they're not part of the actual weave, they are nonetheless being tucked into the weave, and that is prohibited, at least midrabanan. Rabbi Yossi Omer, Meshichos shel argaman asuras. The strands of argaman is that purple dyed wool. Um, Asuras mipnei shehu molel ad shelo kosher, because he rubs them with his hands to twist them. Um, and Elegava Chaluk so if we're talking about threads of wool which has been dyed with argaman, if it's being twisted together with linen, because he rubs it together with his fingers, even though it's a raw kind of product, um and it's not processed fully, as we said at the beginning of the mission, unless we make an issur that you shouldn't do this. Lo yikshor seret shel tzemer b'shel pishtan lachgor bo es mosnav afal pisha haritzur be'emtza. So what's your situation over here? Let's say you've got a leather belt, and the leather belt, it doesn't have a nice fancy buckle like we've got in ours, but it's got a hole punched in each end of the leather, and he's got two threads tied onto the two ends.
Together.
right? So the one of them he makes out of wool, and the other one he makes out of linen. Okay. Now that's not actually wool and linen together, but the problem is that he ties them in front of his tummy with
Right.
the two things together, and that is considered kilayim. They're now mixed in together as the knot. Okay, Yud. Osos ha-gardin. When the dry cleaners, right? You know, your professional cleaner, they put a stitch into the clothing so that they know who it belongs to, right? And
Right.
that we even do today. They just have, have it a little bit more nicely printed. They put a piece of paper and they staple it on or whatever.
Staple.
But in the old days, they didn't have such technology. So what did they do? They would take a stitch and they would they would course, roughly stitch in a letter or something that shows who it belongs to. Now, what happens if he's using a linen thread on a wool garment? That's a problem. Also, the garden, also the kovsin. So the garden are translate guardian, the first one. The
I'm sorry.
Kovsin are the launderers, but what was the translation of guardian?
Weavers. It says marks of weavers. The
Weavers.
marks. Right.
Launderers. Okay, Asur is Mishum Kilayim. What if somebody just puts a single thread? So he just puts the needle through once and you just got a loose thread going through the fabric. That's not considered a chibor. So if it's joining two separate things, so let's say you've got a wool, you've got a patch of wool and you've got a patch of linen, and one thread that goes through connecting the two of them. That's not considered a chibor. It's completely loose and the one will come off. Okay. Ve'ein ba mishum kilayim. So there's no issur of kilayim if something is connected like that. Va'ashom te b'Shabbos pater. And if somebody unties such a thing on Shabbos, it's completely pater because that's not really knotted. So asa shnei rosheha letzad echad. However, if he brought the knot back, so the two ends of the thread are now on the same side of what you said. Okay. V'yesh ba mishum kilayim. So that is both shatnez, and if somebody pulled that out on Shabbos, you are chayav for being matir. Rabbi Yehuda Omer ad shalesh. He says only if it goes through three times because two is still not a good stitch. Okay, and halacha follows Tanakama. Hasak v'kupa mitztarfin lekilayim. The sak and kupa are not they're not good fabrics. אם חתיכת אריק של צמר מחוברת לשק וחתיכת בד של פשטן מחוברת לקופה. So it's steht für us. שני כלים. שני כליים. מכל מקום יש בהם משום כליים. Let's just see. Oh, right. If let me just take a look at the commentary in English because my brain is just not functioning properly over here. So if the sack and the sack and the basket combine to constitute kilayim. So if a piece of woolen cloth is fastened to a sack and a piece of linen is fastened to a basket, and the sack was then fastened to the basket with two stitches, this now comes under the prohibition of kilayim, and he may not put them on his shoulder, even though the sack and the basket are two separate objects. Okay, and that is the end of Maseches Kilayim. Have you already done your Chazara and all the other Mishnayos?
But we'll go through now again. So we'll go 7.
You want to go through them again with me? I'm fine with
You
that. I haven't
good for you? Okay.
Zion. Yeah.
An aris which projects beyond the wall from the corner and stops is given its tillage space, and the rest may be sown. Rabbi Yossi says if they are not 4 cubits, there is one, then one may not bring them seeds. There's seeds there. If a tent would protruded from the aris and is regarded as a plummet was suspended from it, it is forbidden opposite it, and likewise in the case of a single trellis vine. If one stretches a vine shoot from tree to tree, it is forbidden beneath it, and if he extended it by means of a rope or reed grass, it is permitted under the extension, and if he made it so that the news should spread along, it is forbidden. If one sinks a vine into the ground, and if there is not 3 handbreadths of soil above it, he may not bring seeds on it, even if he sunk into the gourd or a pipe. If he sunk it into a rock, then even if there are only 3 fingerbreadths of soil above it, it is permitted to bring seeds on it.
Okay. We went too far there. We should have finished it. Yeah, we needed to do 3 Mishnahs there. We started with Zion.
Oh, I left one out. Okay, all right. I left out if reeds protrude from the iris and he avoids cutting them short, is permitted opposite them. If he acted thus, so the noose should spread along them, it's forbidden. Okay, so tomorrow we start with Zion Aleph. Okay.
Cool.
Okay. All right, and turn this around this way, and now we have over here. Okay, Gimel.
Hey.
If one gives to a hostess, he tithes what he gives her and what he receives from her, because she is suspected of exchanging it. Rabbi Yossi said, we are not responsible for deceivers for tithes, only what he receives from her. If one gives to his mother-in-law, he tithes what he gives her and what he receives from her, because she is suspected of exchanging what is spoiled. Rabbi Yehuda said she seeks to seem favor for her daughter and feels ashamed before her son-in-law. Rabbi Yehuda agrees that if one gives his mother-in-law produce of the Shavuos year, she is not suspected of exchanging it and giving her daughter produce of the Sabbath year to eat. If one buys produce from a person who is not truly trustworthy concerning maestros and forgets to tithe it, then he asks him on the Shabbos, he may eat upon his word. If the night fell at the end of the Sabbath, he may not eat until he has tithed it. If he did not find him, and one who is not trustworthy in regard to maestros said, it is tithe, he may eat upon his word. If the night fell at the end of the Shabbos, he may not eat until he is tithe. If Truma Maisa was Demai, of Demai reverted to its original location, the Rim Shimon Chazori says he asked him even on a weekday, and he may eat upon his word.
Okay. Good.
Going on to Makshirin. Okay, Zion. Regarding produce that fell into a channel of water and someone whose hands were tummy stretched out his hand and took it, his hands are tahor, and the produce is tahor. But if he attended that his hands be rinsed, his hands are tahor, and the produce is included in the law of water is placed. Regarding a pot that is full of water and was placed in a mikveh, and an avatuma stretched out his hand and inserted it into the pot's tummy. If the person was tummy through contact with a source of tuma, the pot is tahor. But as for all other liquids, they are tummy because water does not purify other liquids. Regarding one who fills an irrigation pipe until 3 days have elapsed, it is tummy. But Akiva says if the water in the pipe dried up, it is tahor immediately. But if it did not dry, even until 30 days have passed, it is tummy. Okay. And on to Kilayim.
Base.
Oh, okay. A bagpipe is impervious to midrash tuma. Regarding a trough of pisalnus, Bet Shammai says it is susceptible to midrash tuma, but Beis Hillel says it is only susceptible to becoming tummy with corpse tuma. Regarding a trough with its capacity between 2 logs and 9 calves that crack, it is susceptible to becoming tummy with midrash tuma, even if one left it in the rain and it swelled. It is susceptible to becoming tummy with corpse tuma. If he then placed it in the east wind and developed a crack, it is susceptible to midrash tuma. There is a stringency that applies to the remnant of wooden utensils over the original utensils, and a stringency that applies to the remnants of wicker utensils over the original utensil that originally they are not susceptible to tuma until their rims are secured. Now, after the rims are secured, even though their rims fell away, if only the smallest amount of the rim remains, the tummy. Regarding a stick that one made into a handle for an axe, it is considered with regard to tuma while it is in use. Regarding a diaster, it is considered connected with regard to tuma while in use. If one set it into a post, it is tummy, but if not considered connected to the post, if one made a distar, only that part which needs is tummy. Regarding a chair that one set into a post, it is tummy, but if not forward connected to it. If one made it a chair, only its place is tummy. If he attaches it to the beam of an olive press, it's tummy. If it's not considered connected to it, if one made a chair at the top of the beam, it is tahor because people say to him, "Stand up so that we may do our work." Okay. Regarding.
Oh yeah. One more, yes. One more.
Yeah. Regarding a trough that was 2 damaged the whole pomegranates and 1 prepared to sit on it, Rabbi Kiva rules a tummy, but the sages say it's tahor until 1 cuts it, and if he made it even into a manger, even if he set it in a wall, he is tummy. It is tummy. Okay, and Makos, Dalid. Witnesses are not condemned to Zomerman until their selves are incriminated. How so? If they said, we testify that A killed B, and other witness said to them, how can you testify that since the murdered person or the murderer was with us on the day of the particular place, they're not Zomerman? But if they said to them, how can you testify to that since
We
you...
did that yesterday, actually. We're supposed to be on.
Okay. If witnesses came and they were proven to be Zomerman, and yet others came and were proven to be Zomerman, even up to 100, they are all to be executed. Rabbi Yehuda says this is a conspiracy, and only the first set is executed. Zomermen are not executed unless judgment has already been pronounced. For the Sadducees maintain so that after the accused had been put to death, for it is written, a life for a life. The sage said to them, but it is not written, and you shall do to him as he thought to do to his brother. Thus his brother must still be alive. Why then it is written, a life for a life? For it might be thought that they are liable for the death sentence for the time their evidence was received. Therefore, the verse states a life for a life to teach us that they're executed only if the verdict has already been pronounced. By the mouth of two witnesses or three witnesses shall he that is to be died be put to death. If the testimony of two is valid, why does the Torah mention three? But this is in order to compare 3 to 2. Just as 3 can incriminate 2 as Zomerman, so can 2 incriminate 3. How do we know even 100? Because the Torah says witnesses. Reb Shimon says, just as 2 witnesses are executed only if both are Zomerman, so 3 are executed only if all 3 are Zomerman. How do we know that this applies even to 100? Because the Torah says witnesses. Rabbi Akiva says the third is referred to in order to deal with him severely and make his sentences that of the others. And if the Torah imposed punishment on one who joins transgressions as on the transgressions themselves, how much more so will a reward to one who joins those performing a mitzvah as upon those themselves performing a mitzvah?
Okay, great.
And what do I do with that piece? Okay, sorry. That's my mark. Okay. And Beit Bea. I'm sorry. In 3 matters, Rabbi Gamliel is more stringent. Following the view of Beit Shammai, only one may not cover up hot food on Yom Tov for the Sabbath, and one may not assemble a candelabrum on Yom Tov, and one may not bake bread in large loaves, but only in thin cakes. Rabbi Gamliel said, never in my father's house did they bake bread in large loaves, but only in thin cakes. They said to him, what should we do about your father's house to apply the stringent ruling to themselves, but the lenient ruling to all Israel, so they might bake bread in large and thick cakes? He also said 3 things applying to a lenient ruling. One may sweep between the couches, and one may put the spices on the fire on Yom Tov, and one may prepare a kid muklas on the eve of Passover. So the sages forbid. And 3 things Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah permits, and the sages prohibit. 1 cow may go out with a strap between its horns, and 1 may carry an animal on Yom Tov, and 1 may grind pepper in its mill. Rabbi Yehuda says 1 may not carry an animal on Yom Tov because it makes a wound, but 1 may comb. But the sages say 1 may neither curry nor comb them. Okay.
Okay, and we're done.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I will.
Thank you.
Hopefully, this will work again tomorrow because I don't have my computer.
Okay.
So,
okay. Bye.